2022 has just kicked off and I'm here, as I always am every year, to tell you guys what I am anticipating for the upcoming releases in music for the year. I get a little bit apprehensive doing these kinds of videos because I have a bit of a history behind talking about albums I'm anticipating, albums I am hyped for, and then inevitably they end up being the most disappointing albums or the albums that let me down the most. So I have a bit of a tentative relationship with anticipating albums. Obviously it's hard not to if you're just excited for an artist that you absolutely love, but I just really hope the albums that I mention in this video are as good as I am hoping them to be. So let's kick this off. I'm gonna start with Vale Smith, which was meant to come out this upcoming Friday, the 7th of January. There are some releases. Vale Smith was meant to be one of them, and it actually already got released due to some mistake that the streaming services made. It actually came out, I think, like in the early morning of New Year's Day. So this album is actually already out, and I have actually given it a sneaky listen. So, you know, technically can't really call it one I'm anticipating because I've already heard it, but it was meant to be one I was anticipating, and given the fact that Vale Smith is a very talented artist who puts out really good music, it just seems fair to mention him at the start of this video because it wasn't necessarily his own fault that streaming services did this to him. It was meant to be coming out Friday, so here is an early release for you guys to be checking out in the start of the year. And also for this Friday, which is actually coming out this Friday, Soichi Terada with his album. I'm really looking forward to this. I think Soichi Terada is a really talented artist. There are some really talented artists on his own label as well. Shinichiro Yokota, who I did review at the end of last year, and also was my album of the year for 2019. But Soichi Terada is also an artist that has one of my favorite albums of the past, you know, 6-ish, 7-ish years or so, or whatever. A pretty long time span that. But anyway, Soichi Terada, check this guy out for some really cool house music. The week after that, we've got Earl Sweatshirt and FKA Twigs dropping on the same day, which I'm pretty looking forward to. I think Earl Sweatshirt should be an interesting release. I think he's got some big boots to fill though. His last album was literally considered his best album so far, after quite a few albums already, and I think that's always a big moment for an artist to try and, you know, top the previous one. If people are, you know, anticipating it so highly, can they live up to the anticipation? Can they live up to the expectations? I'm sure Earl will. I'm sure he will drop a good album regardless, but yeah, hopefully you know, this one isn't one to disappoint the fans. And of course FKA Twigs, I think as well, actually, given that her discography so far has been very, very acclaimed and very highly praised. So yeah, interesting release for those two. The week after that, I think we've got Boris. Boris is a cool noise rock band. They did drop an album in 2020? Is it 2020? I think it was 2020. Yeah, it was cool. It was all right. I think, yeah, it wasn't, I don't think it was as good as people were saying. I think it was a pretty cool album. I don't think it was that good, but it was a good album, and I'm always looking out for what Boris are doing. A really cool Japanese rock band. Black Country New Road have a new album on the way too, and it's kind of cool that the timeline for their releases has ended up being like this, because obviously they only dropped at the start of last year their debut album, but it got delayed. So we've actually not ended up waiting that long for their next album, because I think the 2021 album that they did drop, their debut, I think was meant to come out about a year earlier, but I think they delayed it. So it's pretty cool that we've only had to wait a year for the next one. I'm looking forward to it. Black Country New Road, man, this should be good. I think Saba's got one on the same day too. Really always looking forward to what Saba drops. I think he's a really nice, laid back, chilled out hip-hop artist that has some really introspective lyrics. I like Saba. I think he's really good. The same day, we also have that Mitski album, which feels like it's been on the cards for like 6 months now. I mean, it hasn't been that long, but her single, that the first single came out, that feels like it came out absolutely ages ago. And then she dropped another single after that, which came out about a month ago. So yeah, it's been a pretty long release schedule, but I'm still interested to see what she does, because I thought that second single was pretty good. And I'm not usually the biggest fan of her, but I definitely want to see where she takes her album. I think the week after that album comes out, or those albums come out, I think we got Big Thief. big fan of Big Thief, become an even bigger fan of Big Thief in the past few months, having gone back to their older albums like Masterpiece and stuff. Really love these guys. I think Adrian Lenker is a fantastic singer and a songwriter. Just really highly anticipating this based on the single that dropped last year, Little Things. So it was a really wonderful track, made it in my top 5 of the year. Obviously highly anticipating anything that they drop, considering how much I like their music, and I think this album could be huge for them. It's a huge release as well in terms of how many tracks there are. It's a massive album, and I think this one could be the one that, you know, gets everybody on board, hopefully anyway. And then the week after that we got Beach House, 2 of the most anticipated albums of the year, possibly for me, that I know are dropping. I think I'd put these in the top 2. Beach House with a really strong discography, to be honest. I think not every album was a hit, but I think they've mostly dropped good albums, I think it's safe to say. And they, again, with their lead single being so good and being one of my favourite tracks of last year, it's going to have to be an album that I'm hotly anticipating. And I just hope it doesn't let me down, because this is another big album. They're doing that thing where they release it in like blocks. So every now and then they keep dropping like 4 tracks like every month or so. I'm not a big fan of how artists release their albums in that way. I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. I just personally don't really like it, because I like to just wait until the full thing comes out. I think Hayley Williams did a similar thing with her first album, where she kind of like dropped it in stages. I just like to wait for the whole thing. So very intrigued to see what this is going to sound like. I hope it's a return to their best days, because I think the last few albums have been pretty good, but I don't think they've dropped anything like truly special since, I would probably say, their 2012 album, to be honest. Confidence Man is on the way as well. Really like these guys. I think they just drop such fun dance pop music. They're just so rhythmic, they're just so tongue-in-cheek, they just know how to have a great time. And I think they've got an album scheduled at some point this year, a bit further down the line, but yeah, definitely interested to see what happens with that one. I think Grimes has an album scheduled at some point this year too, so that could be interesting. Another artist that could be dropping as well, we keep getting some teaser posts on social media from The Weeknd. I definitely think we could be getting something from him very soon, actually. I don't know if it's going to be a full album, but I would imagine that we are going to get something at some point, because I don't think you tease your fans on social media in the way he is. For no reason. Yeah, that would be a pretty dick move. And speaking of R&B artists, they aren't really the same in terms of what they do, but they are both technically R&B artists. We do have Frank Ocean. Frank Ocean could be dropping something this year. I think it's been 6 years now. I think it's time, isn't it? I actually think he could follow suit with what The Weeknd's done as well, by the way, with going in a bit more of a pop direction. I just feel it from Frank. I feel like he could, not in the same kind of like huge 80s, you know, over the top kind of synth dramatic kind of direction that The Weeknd's done, which has been good, by the way. I've really liked it, but I just don't think Frank will go that far into the pop world. But I think his next one could be more pop. But it's been 6 years. I feel like this is the time, isn't it, for you to drop an album. I mean, he doesn't have to. Some artists wait like 10 years. I mean, Fiona Apple, we've seen her releases and they come like every 8-9 years. So, you know, Frank could be doing something like that. But I just think 6 years, it seems like it could be the time for Frank. There was quite a few singles from Freddie Gibbs last year, wasn't there? I mean, he dropped a few with some features. Every now and then, every few months, like one came out. Kind of think an album could be on the way from him. This is the thing with hip-hop artists, though. It could drop anytime soon. Like, this is what I like about rappers. They'll kind of hype something up, and then by the time you reach Friday, you know, they've dropped it, and they only mentioned it on the Tuesday or something like that. So I think Freddie Gibbs is probably on the way very soon, which would be good to see. Just looking at my list here. Bjork. I think Bjork could drop something this year. Yeah, Bjork. It's been ages since Bjork dropped something. I think 5 years now. Yeah, come on, Bjork. You could drop something now. Not sure. Similarly with the other ones I mentioned here about this next one, but it's also been a long time since her last album. The same as Frank Ocean, actually, 6 years. Regina Spektor. Would love to see Regina drop something this year. She was on Instagram, like, teasing some kind of thing she was doing. It had nothing to do with an album, but it does seem like she's a bit more active on the social medias and whatnot these days. So I think that could maybe mean that something's on the way. You know, you usually see it when an artist is like, you know, imminently dropping something, and they're like here, you know, all over social media, suddenly posting everything. I mean, Kanye does it every time he drops something, but yeah, it tends to be a bit of a thing for artists. Comanavago, one of my favourite artists of the past few years, dropped my second favourite album of 2020 as well, which is huge praise, of course, landing at number 2 on my year-end list. And yeah, Comanavago, one of the most exciting artists that have come out recently, and they signed to a record label last year too, or was it the end of 2020? I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it was last year. No, it was. Pretty sure. Big moment for them. Definitely feel like whatever they are dropping soon is going to be great, and I just want to hear it now. And I guess to wrap things up there, we may as well end it there now with the last one, because I could talk for like an hour about all kinds of artists that could release something when they may not do that. But I think maybe this year we could get something from Kendrick Lamar. I think this is the time, because again, it's another 5-year release sort of wait time. He did get involved in the Black Panther soundtrack, so technically it's not been 5 years, but since his own full solo body of work, it has been 5 years, and I think this year could be the year for Kendrick. Yeah, 2022 could be massive, man. I mean, even just the ones I've listed that are definitely happening, this is like an indie music nerd's wet dream. You know, Mitski, Big Thief, Beach House, Black Country New Road, FKA Twigs. There's a lot of albums on the way, along with, you know, all the other albums that come out across the year, the ones that you don't even expect, the ones that you're not even anticipating, the ones that come out of nowhere, the ones that you stumble upon on Bandcamp, or even surprise releases from random artists that weren't, you know, you weren't expecting. There could be a lot of good music this year. So I think so far we have a good 2022 on the table, and I'm hoping it doesn't let us down, and I'm hoping it's even better than 2021. So yeah, that's my video. Let me know what you're anticipating the most, what I missed off, if I did miss off any big names or big releases. I probably did, so definitely let me know in the comments. Thank you as always for watching. Have a good day, subscribe, and goodbye.